How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Boy, do we got stuff to talk about here today. Are you ready? Yes, we must talk about Raw. Last night, WWE introduced a rule to explain wrestlers making cross-brand appearances. I'm going to read what was written on WrestlingObserver.com based on the show last night, and then we'll actually go to WWE.com, where I believe they attempt to explain all of the rules for this brand new gimmick that they've got. Vince McMahon started off last night's Raw with SmackDown's Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Kofi Kingston coming out during the segment. Vince said he had an epiphany, mentioned a wildcard rule where 3 wrestlers from Raw and 3 wrestlers from SmackDown would be allowed to appear on the opposite brand, quote, on a given occasion, one of Vince's favorite terms. 2 WrestleMania rematches were announced for later in the show, with Kingston defending the title against Bryan and Reigns facing McIntyre. Reigns starting off tonight's Raw was hyped in advance. Raw posted record low ratings for a non-holiday episode last week, while SmackDown had the show's lowest ratings since the 2016 brand split. Last night, a desperation hotshot show. And my feeling is it's not going to do quite as bad as last week. But I think it's only going to do like a little bit better. We won't know until later this afternoon, so you'll either have to follow WrestlingObserver.com or listen to this show tomorrow. We'll tell you what the ratings are. I don't think they come out till right after this show goes off the air, but it's going to be very, very interesting. What did you think of Raw last night? What do you think the ratings are going to be? We can talk about that on the show here today. 844-411-5411 is the phone number. Text messages 425-780-7566. Also on the show, in the final segment today, we'll be joined for about 10 minutes by the former Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, having his second fight for Bellator coming up on May 11th, a DAZN exclusive from the Allstate Arena facing TJ Jones. We'll talk to him about that and so much more today. So stick around, and we'll kick it off after the break. Wrestling Observer Live. Well, let's start reading some of these text messages here. People are going crazy. All right. Last night came off as Vince in near panic mode, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks under the guise of the Vince's senile gimmick. In 5 months, Vince can't use this as an out. He's stuck with the talent on each brand because the networks don't want crossover. What happens then? This person here says, last night's Raw was unbearable and insulting. Glad they switched promo formats, but I am never watching again. This person says, quote, there's only so much bad television you can watch before you turn it off. That is a quote from Bryan Danielson in 2012, and it rings so true for today's WWE product. This person says, a revival segment was the final straw that broke the camel's back for me. I think I am done watching this show for a while. Maybe I will check back how it's going in a few months, but you can count me out as another one of those hundreds of thousands of people who just quit watching Vince's awful product. The old man just needs to retire. This person says, Vince on Raw gave us a show that was actually worse than last week. It may be the worst show of the year. No logic, sheer chaos, making the brand split irrelevant, and their blatant disrespect for tag team wrestling is sickening. Vince is not a genius. He is far from it. Person says, putting the revival on week after week to be humiliated has only made them seem cooler in my eyes. If you don't want me to care about someone, take them off TV. Oh, they're not smart enough for that one. I had a crazy idea. Shane can name himself the it's just talking about the SmackDown show tonight. My name is AJ, been a big fan over the last few months. I've thought you and Mike have been overly critical of WWE. I thought you guys complained too much. I would like to apologize to you guys today. What I watched last night was god-awful. I love Mr. McMahon. I think he's a legend, but he has lost it. I have no idea what they are doing. Why are they doing it? And had lost all hope, and I have lost all hope until I see significant change. Just no logic. None since Wildcard. What is that? Once again, I apologize. WWE is terrible now. I could go on and on. People didn't seem to like the show last night.
Did you?
I'm not going to defend it. I mean, if I go through it segment by segment, I think I'll bury every single segment. Yeah. But there's always something about the show. When
it could have been worse?
No, not when it could be worse, but like, It was a train wreck last night.
Yeah.
And nobody died, so like I could comfortably watch it. And it's just, there's something about watching a show that's completely insane that, you know, I don't regret watching it. Let's put it that way. A lot of Raws I regret watching it. I'm like, dude, that was 3 hours of my life. What a waste of time. This was like, I said it yesterday in the show, we are witnessing history right now.
Yeah.
And last night was part of the history. Guy's lost his mind. Now we've got this wacky wild card rule, which, anybody want to guess how long that's going to last? I mean, maybe that'll last longer than some of this stuff. But, you know, they made it up this week. And it wasn't planned. And I guess we'll see.
What did Dave say last night when you guys talked about it? Not only was it not planned, they went from 3 people to 4 in one night.
Well, yeah. But here's a thing that it's actually, as much as I think that Vince needs to be put to pasture, okay, he still is clever to a degree, okay? I don't think he needs to be in this role. I hope that he just goes to run the XFL and someone else takes over Raw. I don't think it's going to happen, but he is somewhat clever in the sense that when Roman Reigns was getting booed, he, honest to God, came up with 5,000 clever ways to get him cheered. And, like, they all failed, but they were clever ideas.
Well, he's a promoter. He should have these after 30 years of wrestling.
Well, I don't know. In 73, I'm not even sure he... But anyway...
Oh.
So I was impressed by that. And what I'm impressed by, the cleverness that I am impressed by, okay? And I'm not putting it over the promotion or anything like that because it's a mess, but he has now created a character for himself where when things go wrong in real life, now he can say, that's just me playing a character. You know what I'm saying? So when they announced at the beginning of the show that it's 3 people that can switch brands, and then randomly later in the show, Lars Sullivan came out, who was a 4th guy. And then they have to say, well, Vince changed it. It's now 4 guys, okay? This could be sheer incompetence on the part of the company. But Vince can now say, well, it's a storyline. My character decided to change it to 4.
Oh, my God.
So there is like it is. And you know what's even better, Mike?
What's that?
Do you remember when they created a storyline that Brock Lesnar didn't want to come to work?
I remember that.
And in the year 2018 and 2019, we had fans who should know better that now believe that Brock Lesnar is a lazy guy who doesn't want to come to work. They are going to convince, I don't know how many, but they are going to convince maybe a sizable portion of their fan base that, in fact, Vince isn't crazy and he doesn't change his mind every day. And it's all just a storyline that they've made up, which is pretty impressive if they manage to do that.
Well, there are people in this world that believed Vince McMahon sold, and these are people that, as you mentioned yesterday on a different part of this subject, that these are the people that are responsible with your money and to give you financial advice. There were people way back that thought Vince sold the entire company to Donald Trump and the stock price plummeted.
Yes.
So, you know, if somebody is dumber than the supposedly smart people that are supposed to be looking at your money, you know, I wouldn't be shocked by this at all. But I would like to have some hope that some of those people are wrestling fans and realize that this is very WCW and Impact-ish, right down to the 30-minute opening of nothing but talk and no matches until that 30-minute point. Things changing as the show goes on the air. I mean, we can go one after another, and it is what it is. I mean, whether it's a character that he's trying to create or not, whether that works on some people or not, the reality is there's reality underneath that. And the reality says they're not creating fans. Their show is a mess. They have all of this talent at their disposal, and they would still rather spend part of their time embarrassing somebody on the way out the door instead of just making them disappear, instead of utilizing them.
They're not even on the way out the door. They got like a year left.
Yeah, and that just you're using. So what? Anybody that beats the Revival, you didn't beat anybody. Anybody that has beaten the Revival, you haven't beaten anybody because they were geeks. It's just like, what's the point? Nobody looks good in this, on top of the fact that it's a waste of time that nobody wants to see anymore.
Well,
it's funny once. It's like when they would break out little people all the time dressed as somebody else. It was funny the first time, but the thing is with this, it's not even funny the first time because everybody saw it coming.
I don't want to screw the Revival here, but like when I see what they do with the Revival, and they're trying to figure out every single way to make them uncool and bury them, I mean, like no one there is smart enough to just realize you break them up. There's not even a Revival anymore. You send one of them to SmackDown, you keep one of them on Raw, there is no more Revival, and you treat them both like Ty Dillinger, and then that's the most effective way that you can have people forget about this team. These people are so stupid sometimes. They keep the Revival together. They don't even break them up. They're still a team. Like, they want to bury the Revival, but they keep them as a Revival. It's like the heel ref gimmick where, like, the heel ref is a heel, but he's still going to count fair. Yeah. It's like, dude, break them up. If you don't want the Revival anymore, if you want to bury the Revival, then there ain't going to be a Revival. Put one guy on one show and one guy on the other and forget about him.
But who cares? Like, even if that was the case,
I'm just pointing out how easy this is, and they can't even figure that out.
But they're still on Raw and on SmackDown taking your valuable TV time while you have a Cesaro or somebody like that who you know is dedicated and wants to be there for you, and instead of like giving him opportunities, he's the one that's on main event, and these guys are the ones on your TV. Whether you're trying to embarrass them or not, it's a waste of your time. It's amazing. It's amazing.
All right, the latest wrinkle in the ongoing Superstar shakeup emerged this Monday when Mr. McMahon announced a new Wildcard rule in which a limited number of superstars, note they don't have a number now, from Raw or SmackDown could be invited across brands, with unauthorized jumps to be penalized by fines or even potential firing. The number of crossover stars was initially capped at 3, though Lars Sullivan eventually persuaded the chairman to expand the limit to 4. So
I would love to have heard that conversation.
There are 4 people that can jump ship. If you jump ship in addition to that, you will be fined or fired. That's the new rule. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's up?
Hi, this is Jeff in Crestwood, Kentucky.
Yes,
You're
Jeff.
talking about the Revival segment. I just wanted to say something real quick on that. I thought it was okay. I mean, I know it's not going to necessarily be everybody's cup of tea, but one thing's for sure, the Revival got in a lot of heat.
He waited online the entire time for that joke. They got a lot of heat. Get it? Because their balls were on fire. I wonder if they got that manscaping gimmick. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Heath in Concord, California.
It's stand-up comedy day here on the show today.
Oh, really? Well, this might be funny. So last night, I didn't watch Raw, but I was scrolling through Facebook, and this thing pops up from WWE where it says, "Oh, you didn't see this on Raw tonight." And it's Mojo Raleigh, and he comes out, cuts a promo, talks about how he has realized that he's a failure and that everybody else needs to realize their failures and blah, blah, blah. And he's got, like, face paint on his eyes that looks like broken glass, I guess, and, like, a 4-man version of Finn Balor's theme music. They made it seem like that, oh, this is a special treat for you, that you get to see this Mojo Raleigh promo. But they posted, you didn't get to see this on Raw. So Raw is the show that needs help with the ratings. So they're pretty much putting this out there. Oh, you didn't get to see this, but we acknowledge that we're not putting it on TV because it's not going to help with the ratings. So why should I care at all about Mojo Raleigh? That's all I want.
I love how that was a whole setup. In the end of the day, the question is, why should I care about Mojo Raleigh? Well, my friend, you shouldn't care about Mojo Raleigh because I don't think they're going to do anything with Mojo Raleigh. I think that they're going to do exactly what they've done with him for years, and so your best bet is not to care about Mojo Raleigh, and things will be better. God bless Mojo Raleigh. I think he's a talented guy. I just don't have hope that they're going to do anything with Mojo Raleigh. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. They're going crazy here. Yes, caller.
Hey, what's going on, Brian? This is Xavier from Brooklyn.
Yes.
Hey, so it's not really a question. It's more like a statement. I'm 32 years old. Been a wrestling fan since WrestleMania 8. Watched everything. Watched every single Raw, and never missed a Raw. And so these last like 3 months have been just pure garbage. And so last week they kind of tuned me out, and I was just busy. I have a life. I have a daughter, and I have a career. So I'm like, I can't just spend 5 hours watching this. Yeah. So I actually missed it for the first time, and I tried to watch it yesterday to bring me back in. And as soon as I saw that revival segment, I just turned it off. They lost me. I have been a wrestling fan, a WWE fan for life, and I just can't watch this product anymore. And I can't devote 5 hours of my life for it. It's just horrible. And I've just been very angry WWE fan. I just needed a rant.
Well, I appreciate you calling in and ranting. You're not alone, my friend. That's what you need to know. You're not alone. My child's got to get put through college. I mean, can we turn the ship around at some point here? Yeah, think about that. You're on the air.
Well, you know what? The money you'll make off of somebody saying, "Hey, will you write the demise of WWE?" You know, maybe you can put her through college that way.
Perhaps. Caller, you're on the air. What's up?
That was your chance to plug the book, by the way.
Well, I got too many people, though. The phones are going crazy. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, guys. This is Daniel from Greensboro.
Get close to that phone, Daniel. What's going on?
One or two comments. This is the most stacked roster I've ever seen WWE have.
Yes.
And this is the worst product in forever. I mean, they've got 3 hours of TV, and they've got so many good guys, and they put on such crap TV. And,
you know another company that used to have that? World Championship Wrestling. They had like 300 people under contract, and the shows were wretched.
They've got an all-star roster, and they've got guys playing out of position, to use a sports analogy. I mean, they've just... It's horrible, but Dave's talked about it a bunch. Come October, the NFL is going to advertise for WWE. Those guys that do those NFL broadcasts, if they don't like what they're advertising for Friday night, they will mock it. Joe Buck, who calls football games for Fox, he will make fun of the WWE product. He'll plug it, but he'll absolutely kill it if he doesn't want to give it a good review. He will be. I mean, he's not going. It's not always going to be shining positive.
Yeah, but you know what? Buck's kind of a prick. It's the other one of the other guys who wouldn't be such a prick who starts making fun of it. That's the one that's going to hurt.
All righty, let's go to the phones. You are on the air.
They don't like what they're advertising.
Hey, Bryan, just had a quick question for you. With the revival segment being at the top of that third hour, and obviously, you know, a lot of people were saying that that's when they actually tuned out. Do you think that it's actually going to be below like the 1.89 that they done last week, or do you think that the title match was, you know, going to be enough to keep it above the 2 million mark?
Okay, I'm going to answer this question because I want to talk about something that Dave talked about last night. My God, these phones. So Dave was talking about how, well, we had the Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston WrestleMania rematch, and he expected that to do well. But he said they promised that Kofi Kingston Seth Rollins title versus title match, and that one didn't do well. And maybe I'm in the minority right here, but let me tell you something as a fan, okay? I don't think anybody believed that the night after WrestleMania, they were going to unify the Raw and SmackDown men's titles. I don't think one person on the planet believed that was possible. I do, however, believe that there were people on the planet that thought, these people are freaking out over the numbers. Daniel Bryan's here on this show. They might have Daniel Bryan win the title back from Kofi Kingston. I do believe there are fans that thought that was a possibility. I do not believe there was one fan on the planet that thought they were unifying the Raw and SmackDown title with Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston. So my point of this is, I believe that Bryan versus Kofi was actually a much stronger main event than champion versus champion, because I believe that more people thought that you could actually have a title change in the Bryan match than in the champion versus champion match. So, point of this is, I believe the third hour is going to do a little bit better than the third hour last week. I don't think it's going to do a lot better. Maybe 1.9 million, maybe 2 million, but I don't think it's going to drop below 1.8 million. That's my prediction. And let's go to the phones.
I thought you were going to go right to them.
Well, I was. Go ahead, my friend.
Hey, Bryan. I had a question for you. So I've only been rewatching Raw since like 2016, and I think this is like the worst time I've been watching. Like, this is like the most consistently bad time.
It is.
But for you, what are the other worst times in the history of Raw that have been this bad over time, and what have been like the parts where it's been like consistently pretty good for like 6 months?
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, obviously, the early 90s were a largely bad period. Different kind of bad. I mean, I had to watch The Repo Man. He's terrible. And they had a bunch of horrible gimmicks, and nobody was going to the shows, and the crowds were dead, and Kevin Nash was the champion. I mean, that was bad. The 96-97 was probably creatively the best it's ever been. The Team Canada stuff and Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and their feud, that stuff was great. 98, 99, 2000 was great because you had The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Mick Foley, and The Undertaker, but like the undercards were absolutely wretched, god-awful. But there were like 12,000 people at every Raw, so the place was just going nuts, so that was a great period. The period following the invasion was awful, awful creative, and not as bad as today. It's a different kind of awful. It was storyline consistency that was awful. And then it was just kind of up and down from like 2005 to 2014 or so. It's like sometimes it was all right, sometimes it wasn't, whether you liked Cena or not, whether you liked Roman or not. But yes, this period here from October, November through today is the absolute bottom of the barrel, dirt worst booking I've ever seen out of this company ever. I stand by that.
Especially person for person because of the amount of talent they have at their disposal. I mean, you look at 1983 or like 82 WWF, where the only two tag teams they have were like, you know, that was Zbyszko and Gurria and like Fuji and Tanaka. It's like, it was the same. I mean, nothing. They had nothing, but they were nothing. They were a regional promotion with nothing. I mean, this is like, they have all of this talent there. And again, all of what they have at their disposal. That's why it's so easy to argue. Some people will try to point out other times that aren't. It's because of what they have at their disposal right now and what they're doing with it, which is what makes it extra frustrating.
I have so many text messages here. Nobody died. What about Sami Zayn? That's right, they killed Sami Zayn. We'll see.
I was going to say, wait, that's the whole separate thing. He could have died. That's the whole point of this, is he may have died. In storyline, he should be dead right now. He was crushed to death by a garbage disposal, thrown in there by fan favorite Braun Strowman. It's like, this is stupid.
Well,
although the character has turned into garbage, like, that was your out just because Luke Harper isn't there and they were going to do a feud? That's what you got? That's how you're going to end this thing, is literally throwing it in the garbage? Amazing symbolism.
Back in a moment with Jack Swagger, Jake Hager. We'll talk to him about Bellator for about 10 minutes, and then I'll go back to your text messages. Back in a moment, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive will be back in just a moment. Joined today by the former Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, joining us here today. He will be fighting this coming weekend for Bellator, a DAZN exclusive from the Allstate Arena, facing TJ Jones. Second fight this year. Jake, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
That's right. So, first fight, January 26th. J.W. Kaiser pretty much smashed this guy. 209 of the first round, arm triangle choke. And now going into the second fight. And I guess my first question is, you can wrestle your whole life and train and do fights in the gym, but obviously getting in there for a real fight is going to be different. And what did you learn from that first fight?
Oh, man. Well, first thing I learned is the speed of what happens in that cage is so much faster than practice. The hand speed alone, but let alone like when 3 seconds ticks off the clock, 10 different things have happened in that time. So the pace in there, even though it may seem slow at the heavyweight level, there's so much going on that you have to be aware of and constantly be monitoring and adjusting to. But the other thing I learned, too, is that it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and it's something that I think I'm meant to do.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the speed, because a lot of people, when they do pro wrestling, they get in there and they feel like they're going at a normal speed, but when they watch it back, they realize that they're going way too fast, and they have to consciously think about slowing down. And I mean, how would you compare like the first few pro wrestling matches you had to your first fight? I mean, how was it different in terms of the time and what it felt like?
You know, it's funny. I related it a lot. You know, I used my background as a pro wrestler a lot that night to help me prepare and help me stay calm. With a pro wrestling match, you're trying to remember so many different things and, you know, not forget it and when you're supposed to do it. And then on top of that, you're trying to monitor the timing of the match. With this, it's almost like you just want to have confidence that you have worked as hard as you possibly could, that you checked all the boxes, and that you're ready. And once you have that confidence and know that you're ready, the pressure's off. Now it's just time to go out there and do it. So I think my first professional fight was much better than probably my first professional wrestling match. But I don't know. There are so many like similarities between the two, and at the same time differences.
Daniel Cormier was an Olympic wrestler, and he got into mixed martial arts, and as he was training, like he realized that he was very, very good at the stand-up. And now when you watch a Cormier fight, I mean, he's out there beating people with the stand-up game. I mean, when you started training, were there, because obviously there's so many different things you have to work on when you're training for mixed martial arts, were there any different things that you found that you took to maybe easier than you expected to?
Well, definitely the kickboxing really took to that, but kind of expected that because I got abnormally long legs. The striking was a little more difficult for me, measuring the timing and the spacing of it. But nothing really surprised me. I kind of had a good understanding of what it was going to take and what I was going to be good at. And you know, ultimately for me, I want everything to come back to my wrestling. So I strike in a way that it complements my wrestling. I kickbox in a way that complements my wrestling. My jiu-jitsu complements my wrestling. So for me, it makes it all easier to have that background in actual wrestling to rely on and relate to and learn in the same way.
A lot of people who have done pro wrestling and mixed martial arts have stated that pro wrestling is significantly harder. Like, obviously, mixed martial arts is real, but the constant bumping, the travel, 4 days a week, if you're on the WWE roster, it just tears you apart a lot faster than mixed martial arts. Have you found that to be the case with you, or do you feel, for whatever reason, that pro wrestling was easier for you?
I mean, I could definitely see the argument where they would say pro wrestling is harder because you have to have the timing, you have to have that chemistry with your opponent, you have to be able to move with someone else and almost get inside their heads and be on the same page. Whereas MMA, the training is definitely harder. But once you're in there, it's you do what you do, go in there and inflict your will. I always laugh when people, want to call pro wrestling fake. And I was like, I guarantee you couldn't do it because it is a very, very difficult thing. And I remember when I first started training, watching people practice up close, and they always say, the good ones make it look easy. They make it look effortless. And the ability to do that is something very special, and it's not to be understated.
Did you ever have that deal when you were training where, I'm a shooter and these guys want me to lose, but, I could beat this guy? I mean, did you ever have that? Yeah. I mean, anyone who says they didn't, I feel like isn't telling the truth.
you want to, especially at the WWE level where they want realism now. That's like their thing. And then they go out there and you have someone who you tower over beat you. But honestly, I think that's almost like a rookie phase. Because I learned long ago, if you go out there and whether you're scheduled to win or lose, if you have a great match, you win. Absolutely, 100%. If you're given time and you have a great match, you're winning, whether your hand is raised at the end of it or not. So it's something that if someone gets hung up on that, I just like, okay, you just don't have enough experience at it yet. Now, at the same time, that whole argument where people say wins and losses don't matter in pro wrestling, well, that's not true either. They absolutely do. Ask Triple H. 100% they matter. That's why he always wins. And it's just one of those things where you want to be you want your hand raised because you're going out there and putting your body on the line. You're giving your body to this, someone else. But at the same time, you can still find other victories and get yourself over in the process.
One last question here. What do you know about TJ Jones?
I know he's a tough guy, big boxer, good jab, strong right hand. He's got more boxing matches than he does MMA. And I know he's going to be coming for it, so he's going to get every piece of what I have. I'm halfway suspecting for him to try to stay away from me and rely on his boxing. So we got a game plan for that. And then if he wants to come at me with some hard punches, that's just going to play right into my takedowns.
Well, Jake, I want to thank you so much for doing the show here today. The show is coming up on May 11th, the Bellator, a DAZN exclusive all-state arena if you want to check it out. Jake Hager, TJ Jones, Jake's second fight here, and best of luck, and we'll see you this Saturday.
All right, everybody go to Pro Wrestling Tees and check out my new shirts.
That's right. We got to plug your merch. Anything else you want to get out there? Pro Wrestling Tees?
Pro Wrestling Tees, and go to the CatalinaTechnique.com if you're tired of going to the gym and you want a 30-minute workout you can do anywhere. If you like abs, if you like looking sexy, go to the CatalinaTechnique.com.
The CatalinaTechnique.com. All right, thanks so much for doing the show today. I very much appreciate it. And hey, who does not like abs, Mike? Where is Mike? He vanished again. Well, fear not, everybody. I have multiple co-hosts here available today, so let's go to the phones. You are on the air. What's going on?
This is Jim from Virginia. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing well. What's going on?
Last night they had the retirement match for Lufisto, and she defeated cheerleader Melissa in Quebec. And they said after the match that all the girls come up there, and they surrounded the ring as she got her a plaque where she was inducted into the SPW Hall of Fame in Quebec.
Look at that. Excellent.
That's awesome. Now, the NSPW, do you have any idea what that stands for?
The NSPW?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can ask. Somebody will probably text us here in a moment.
Oh, and Michael, like this, Allison Kay has got the NWA, not the NWA, the Shine title now.
Really? Man, you're keeping us up to date on all of this action here, Jim. I appreciate it. Did you watch Raw last night?
Yes, I did. That deal with, what's her name? Can't think of her name now. Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans, yes.
Yeah, I didn't think too much of that. Who was the girl that got knocked out in 39 seconds?
I forget her name. Just some random woman.
What's the deal? What do you think about this wild card deal that Vince has come up with?
Oh, Jim, have you been listening to the show here today? It's all people can talk about. They hate the wild card match or the wild card concept. They're supposed to be giving the fans what they want, but the fans don't want this. I've had a million people here saying it's not the number of people on the show, it's what you do with the people, which is absolutely true. By the way, this person says, WWE Careers just tweeted this video of being a creative writer for them. It's about a 3-minute video, but there's a comment where one writer says, quote, "You're making script changes, sometimes right up to showtime. which is funny because it's true. I guess you can find that up there on YouTube. Jump through some of these texts here. Person says, Bray Wyatt is truly the only interesting thing in WWE right now. Good thing they post those full segments on YouTube so I don't have to watch the shows. Yeah, they posted them after the show this week. I guess concerned that putting up all those clips on YouTube is causing people from watching the show. So we'll see what the ratings are this week. They put nothing up on YouTube. So if the ratings are as bad or worse, YouTube has nothing to do with whether or not people are actually watching the show. This person here says, Raw was the same show, but they were explaining things they don't usually explain. It felt like someone said, we just assume the people watching know what's going on. But they were explaining. So you're saying they weren't explaining things they don't. Oh, what? I don't understand your text. You're going to have to clarify that. There was one thing on the show last night that I got to praise, because I've been crying about it forever, and they finally fixed it for a week at least. They got rid of the backstage interviewers having to ask stupid questions. There were at least 3 interviews last night where the person being interviewed, Seth Rollins, for example, he stood there, he looked directly into the camera, and he cut a promo on his opponent. And it was great. It didn't have to start with Kayla standing there and saying, Seth Rollins, do you think that you can beat whoever tonight? It was just him standing there and cutting the promo, and it was great. So I hope they stick to that. You don't need backstage interviewers asking. It was even like a gimmick on the show where like the wrestlers would make fun of the interviewers for asking such stupid questions. So if you're scripting it into the show that your interview people are asking stupid questions, and they are asking stupid questions, maybe you should get rid of that. Just have the guys cut promos like they used to do. It doesn't make it a wrestling show. It makes it a good program. Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, we're trying to figure out where he's at. I know where he's at. We just can't get him connected here. Person says, I have a feeling it's going to make me feel stupid, but I thought that maybe they would unify the titles in that Kofi-Seth Rollins match. They had just unified the women's title the night before. Turns out that it wasn't exactly unification per se, but I didn't know that at the time. Plus, I didn't expect Kofi to have a long title reign. I'm not going to make fun of you. Like, if you thought that they might unify the titles, then that's fine. I didn't. And part of the reason that I didn't was because, yes, they did unify the titles, or they did have one person win both belts the night before, but that was a culmination of, like, a 3-month-long storyline. Well, I guess adding the second title was just done a few weeks earlier, but, I mean, it was a long build to the main event of WrestleMania to make Becky 2 belts. And I just thought, you're going to go on Raw the next night with no build and just randomly put both titles on one guy? It just didn't make any sense to me. Maybe it made sense to more people than I thought. I don't know. I thought there was zero chance of it happening. But I think it was possible that maybe Daniel Bryan could beat Kofi Kingston last night, but they didn't. Person says the whole wild card is stupid. We're going to hear about this for about 3 weeks until it's forgotten about. Whole speech, or just like the whole speech about the WWE Universe making the rules. Yep. I mean, they admitted on the show that Vince lied about that. And now they're making a new deal here with Vince. I don't know what's going on, everybody. But hey, guess what? Tonight's SmackDown. Tonight, there's a bunch of matches advertised. We'll see if they all take place or not. And Shane McMahon is allegedly going to crown, not announce what they're going to do with the tag team titles, but crown new WWE Tag Team Champions. So we'll find out what they end up doing tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow on the show. Tonight, the Bryan, Vinny, and Craig Show, Retro Raw Nitro, 19 years ago this week. A lot of fun stuff up on the site. Want to thank Mike, as always, callers and listeners, everybody in the studio. We will talk to you again tomorrow. Wrestling Observer Live.